Hi, and welcome to another Better Conversations podcast with the founders. We are here to discuss the everyday things we see and apply our youthful wisdom to share our thoughts. So today we are literally discussing a very hot topic, I think, which is house buying. We're both Gen Z as well, so you sort of get into that age, I guess, where you might start thinking about purchasing a house. So yeah, we're just gonna go straight to the point. I guess I'll start with you, Paul, actually. Do you actually plan on buying a house? And then you can flip the question on me as well, and we can kick off the conversation from there.
Sure. So, do you have plans to buy a house? For me, right now, the answer is no. I've thought about this a lot, and I think that I only plan to buy a house when I have a family. So, 'cause I think that's when you need the stability of buying a house,
Yeah.
and you need to make that large outlay. For me, when I when I have my first child, I actually don't think even then I'd buy the house. It's more when I have my second child, because then as a whole family, you need that stability, you need routines to be able to manage everything.
Yeah.
The answer for me, no. I don't see the point in making the large outlay, let's say,
Yeah.
to tie myself down. I know what some people are going to say. Some people are going to say, oh, you can rent it out, just buy it and rent it out.
Yeah.
I have an issue with that, but we'll get onto that later.
Yeah. No, we'll definitely get onto that. Actually, that's an interesting one as well. For me, I was discussing with Paul before as well. I think for me, it's a necessary evil. I see it like that. So I think 100% I do see myself buying a house. But I think I'm on the same wavelength as you in the sense that it will be when there's a lot more, I guess, where there's a need for stability, consistency, that day to day. We're close to the school that the kid's going to be going to for like the next sort of, 13, 14 years, wherever it is. Like it's going to be one of those ones where you need to actually lock yourself in, and actually the financial investment for that stability is actually worth it. But I think right now, and obviously I'm saying that because I'm young now, I don't really see myself needing to buy one. And then as you said, like when it comes to all of the complexities of, oh yeah, should we just buy one now, rent it out, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure about all of that as well. It'd be good to get your views on that actually, around like obviously the race, the property ladder. What people are going to say. People are going to be thinking, what are these guys talking about? You don't want to jump on the property ladder. Like you need to get your foot in the door while the prices are still reasonable. I don't think they are reasonable anymore. But you need to get your foot in the door, and before property prices keep on climbing and you can't afford it anymore. What's your comments to that?
In terms of the race and the getting your foot in the door while the prices are down, the prices are out of control already.
Yeah, honestly.
I don't see I don't understand what you're talking about when you say get by the prices, because the prices are crazy already. I believe the saying is now that house prices are either at or more than 10 times the average person's income.
That's a joke, isn't it?
Whereas 20, 30 years ago, it was maybe 4 times or 5 times.
Yeah.
So that's the ratios aren't there to ever say that they're reasonable.
Yeah.
They could get worse, but does it really matter if it gets worse? Then we still have to deal with it in the future.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point. Because I was going to add to that as well, actually. Because I was literally speaking to a friend, and it was just like, if we're already at this point now, where it's like the payoff doesn't really work out, like in the future it's just going to be the same. So for me, I think what you mentioned like 30, 40 years ago, I think there was a genuine property ladder race, because like, it was 3 to 4 times, as you said, your income, like you get there quick, 10, 15 years, for the most part, you could probably pay it off because like,
Yes.
like it wasn't that much above your income. And that means that you could actually have a property, you know, maybe by the time you were maybe like 30, 35, married, you know, and like that's
Having
great.
full ownership of it, yeah.
Yeah, like full ownership. So then, like, you know, if you wanted to move, you know, if you wanted to, you know, move around, you didn't pay like some crazy interest on it. Like, you had that flexibility, and it actually was worthwhile, because in like 10, 15 years, you could actually sell that property on for a lot more than what you bought it. Now, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most important things when people are saying, "Oh, but if you don't save towards it, you might never get it." My motivation is just to make as much as possible,
Mm,
and when I need a house, I'll have a house.
yeah,
So I'm not gonna take away from my resources right now in the things I want to do to put to the future. Specifically, I'm buying a house.
yeah,
I think I've got other things I could try doing, other things to explore. So to me, the opportunity cost, if you do economics, the opportunity cost isn't worth it.
yeah, yeah. And no, we should speak a little bit about that as well, around the opportunity cost. What do you see, I guess? Obviously, you did economics, you know. What are some of the opportunity costs you're considering there?
The opportunity cost, literally, if you want to start a business,
Mm,
that money you could invest it into a business.
yeah,
You could invest it into the stock market.
mm,
I'm not a big stock market person either myself.
yeah,
But if you are, um, do it now and grow your money exponentially now
mm,
in the stock market than putting it into a house.
yeah,
Other things you could just, this is gonna sound wild. To me, spending the money on actually traveling and seeing the world and getting your world knowledge up,
mm.
I even value that more than buying a house right now.
That's the thing, it's the stage of life as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's a good point. It's a really good point. Like, my wife and I were saying that, what's it, like the stage we are at as well, like actually getting more visibility of world experiences, actually increasing your knowledge, you know, like, because you're in that age where actually you're laying the foundation in some sense for those next, like, once you go, you know, past that 30, you know, like, you're kind of laying the foundation now, like all of the experiences you're going to get, all of the knowledge you're going to accumulate, the careers that you're going to have, like, over the next sort of 30, like when you're 30, 40, 50, we're laying the foundation now. And I feel like, for me especially, locking myself in, let's say, into an area is probably like the worst thing you can do, for me anyway, because it's like, if you lock yourself into that area, like, how many experiences are you going to have? How is your network actually going to grow? You know, like, what jobs have you actually limited yourself to? You know, because you're just locked in that area for the next 5 to 10 years. It's even longer now, let's be real, because the property prices are so high, to pay down even 30, 40%, it's going to take even longer now because of the interest,
Yeah.
all that other stuff. So like, you're locking yourself in for very long. You know, you better be in the right place, you know, with the right network, to literally make sure you have what you want, you know, when you're 45, 50. And for me, yeah, laying the foundation is much more important. So yeah, that what you pointed out there, the life experiences, people might say, you know, it's just, oh, you're just trying to go on a splurge, you know, but actually, like, you know, I did my masters in it. Like, spending that money on my masters, I think is way more beneficial than like maybe locking that in on the house. Like, that was way more beneficial. And I think it's gonna be like that for quite some time. Quite some
I
time.
think that's a
Yeah,
perfect example, actually.
yeah,
The amount
yeah,
you spent on your masters, you spent it on your masters rather than spending it on a house. For some people, they'd be
exactly.
like, "Oh, I've got this. Let me slap a deposit down for a house, or I'm 6
Yeah.
months away from the deposit from a house." Fine, self investment,
Mm,
and I'm pretty sure, even right now or the next 10 years, the return on your investment on yourself is going to be much higher
yeah,
than the value of a house.
yeah, 100%.
And even if it's not pure financial return, your your quality of life
Yeah, yeah,
within yourself as a curious person and how you're going to apply your masters to different aspects is gonna
will
make it worth
return.
it.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. I feel I don't know about you, but I know that the average age to buy a house is obviously going up. But I thought I'll put this question out there anyway. Like, obviously, buying a house for the past generation was like the epitome of success. Like that was, once you're on the property ladder, once you paid off your, once you paid off your mortgage, or you're done. Like that's the dream, innit? You're finished. What do you think it's gonna look like for like our generation, knowing the challenges that are before us? Like, for example, most people can really only put down a deposit on a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom. Like we're talking apartments. Like that's all that's going up right now. That's not like they ain't
especially
really
in London.
building
Yeah,
like those. Yeah, they're not really building those family homes anymore. It's just apartments, bro. And they're charging like
yeah.
crazy amount. So it's like, yeah, for you, what do you see when it comes to the property market specifically? What do you see like success looking like for our generation? Like,
So wait, let me get your question right.
yeah,
What does success look like for our generation in the property market?
yeah, because for the previous, it was by the time you're maybe 40, maybe even 35, let's say, because as you said, it was, 3 to 5 times your income. You bought your property, got your family, you're done. That's it, innit? You just save for retirement after that. I don't think that's just not feasible for us. At 35, most people are buying their first house now. Like,
I think for our generation, if you
mm,
manage to pay your property off before you turn 60, and
mm,
definitely before you hit retirement age, then you've done okay.
yeah, yeah,
And it depends, but then that's also, to me, also includes where did you live
yeah,
and are you happy? Were you happy with your quality of life?
yeah,
Because someone could buy a property in Stratford, London, right?
mm,
And I think those properties are, I think a 3 bedroom flat or 2 bedroom flat there is, let's say about 200K.
yeah,
Okay. You might be able to pay that off, but you spent your whole life in a flat.
yeah,
Your
yeah.
kids never had a chance to get a bouncy castle,
That's a bouncy
a
castle.
trampoline,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
play some football against the
Mm,
wall in their own garden,
yeah, yeah.
um, host a family barbecue,
Mm,
that kind of stuff. And we've both lived in flats before,
yeah.
and then moved to houses.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure you agree with me here that it's a big difference now
No,
having
it
your
is.
own garden where
Yeah,
you can actually
it is.
do stuff. The sun's out, and you can be like, oh, let's just sit outside and enjoy the breeze.
Yeah.
And now I know these new flats, all have like a community area and stuff, right?
Mm, mm.
It's not the same. You can't be kicking ball
Yeah, yeah.
10
Yeah, no, it's
stories
not.
in the
It's not the
high,
same.
and the
Yeah,
ball accidentally goes over the wall.
yeah. More time they have no, the no ball games.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, no football. So yeah.
yeah. Um, so I think that, to me, those are all included in
Mm,
it, and that's why for me there's no need to rush into it. But yeah, I think success in the housing market is going to come down to the individual. But those are the
yeah,
factors that I look at,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think are very questionable for us right now.
Yeah, no, I think they are. I think they are. And like, what you're saying is it's true. Like, I think right now, for me, it's trying to position myself in the places, in the areas where I'm going to see the most opportunity for myself, you know, and that for me, that means if a house is going to become a burden to that, then I'll just push that to the side. Because I think a lot of the time as well, now what I'm seeing is people are like, they still believe that there's some sort of property race and property ladder. I don't think that exists anymore. Honestly, like I think people are saying, get on the property ladder. My parents are telling me, get on the property ladder, all that sort of stuff. I honestly don't think it exists anymore. Like the ladder's at its peak. Like it's done. It's done. Like the days where you could buy a house for 50K, sell it for 500K in 10 years or whatever. Now that's done. Like the interest you're paying, like all that sort of stuff factored in. Like you're literally just going, as you said, if you can buy like a nice family home for yourself, pay off before you're 60, that's probably it. Like even landlords are being disincentivized now to buy multiple properties. All those laws are coming in. It's
I agree with that though.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is why I
like
said I said to you earlier that you called it a necessary evil,
mm,
and you mentioned when I mentioned people who say you can buy the property, and if you want to leave and move around and stuff, you can rent it out. I disagree with that. I actually like the new policies that disincentivize landlords. But first of all, let's explore why you call that necessary evil.
Yeah. So for me, I do think that housing, a place to live, is like a basic human right in it, in some sense. It's. Do you have to own it? Like, for me, when you think of basic human rights, water, electricity, heating, these things, we don't go around owning these things. Obviously, food you actually have to buy from the store and then bring it home. You have to actually own the food and then eat it, right? But food is obviously at a very low price, so we can't compare it to that. But other things, when we're talking about basic utilities, like, you should be able to get those things. And I think housing is actually a basic human right. Like, you should have somewhere to live, stay warm, sleep, shower, all of these things. So, like, when we're talking about buying a house and the house prices are so high, I do think it is a bit of a necessary evil. And also, I'm not even sure if I agree with the concept of buying it in the first place. I think most of us will end up borrowing, the place we live. Because at the end of the day, okay, let's say we buy like a nice 3-bedroom house somewhere, gives us that stability, that longevity. I feel like most people, once they pass away, their house is probably passed down to their kids. And for the most part, that property is being sold. I know you're going to bring something in anyway, so I'll let you bring it in. But like, for the most part, I think you buy the house and it gets sold off, and then another set of people are going to be living in it. The house is never actually really, truly, I guess, yours, if you get what I mean. Like, we borrow it, it's there, it serves a purpose while we're living. Once we're gone, it's done, in it. First, and for me, that's why I see it's kind of like a necessary evil to actually own it. I feel like the ideal scenario would be it's borrowed, if you get what I mean.
So, with that, people would argue that when your children inherit the house,
Yeah.
you've actually passed on something of value to them.
Yeah.
And they can decide to live in it or sell it, but you've actually still helped them in life, essentially, because they now have a place to live, or they now have a good chunk of money coming their way. So is that not still of value, even if it is borrowed as such?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like, should we even have a marketplace around housing in it? I think it's more of a deeper issue in it for me. It's like, should we just be saying that there should actually just be places where people can live? And I do agree that it should be, that there is a value associated to actually being able to live in a house, and obviously the size of the house, where you're living, all of that needs to be factored in. And that's mirrored in the rental market, for example. But should I be, and as you said, disincentivizing landlords and stuff like that? Should we really be making like a ton of profit off of this stuff? When I think there's more value to be made in solving more significant issues. Like, I feel like housing, it shouldn't really be an issue, if you know what I mean. It should be, that's like a basic right. Like, people should be able to live in a house.
Whilst I agree with you, I studied economics. I have to ask, how do we then determine who gets to live where? Because if the government just assigned us housing and I was just assigned a house in Cornwall, I wouldn't be happy. I'd be very upset.
Yeah.
If you were randomly assigned a house in Maidenhead, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Everyone would want a house in London, or at least a house near a big city, especially people who already live in big cities. And then if your house is in, why is your house, let's say now in the actual cities, why is one person's house in Hackney and one person's house in Stratford, another person's house is in Camden. What if I want to live in Hackney or Stratford, but I live in Camden, it's closest to my work. The activities I like to do are much closer to me. My family have been assigned a house over there, so it'd be easy for me to go and see them. So how do we determine that if we don't have a housing market?
Yeah, and I think the rental market is closest. It's the closest to the ideal. I think it is, for me anyway. I think it's the closest to the ideal. The properties in the most valuable areas, and to be honest, that's just determined by, unfortunately, just geography. For some part, London historically was able to generate a lot of its wealth because it's near rivers. It's it's like the boats and all that sort of stuff. Same with other cities as well. You'll find that most cities that are close to water generally are wealthier. So unfortunately, like that, some of it is just like it's just there, in it. Like you can't really do anything about it. But I think the rental market does allow for some of that distribution where if you want a job, if you want a good paying job, you need to do some sort of studying. You need to go to a good school. You need to get good grades, and then you could maybe live in a place like London, for example, or New York, or something like that. And as a result of that, you're probably getting paid more. And as a result of that, your living costs are higher. Whereas if you're in, I don't know, a place where it's not as developed or it's currently in development, you're going to see a difference in the housing quality. But I do think, as you said, it will be much harder in that type of world to maybe even incentivize people to. Would it incentivize people to provide good housing? I'm not sure. But for me, I think I think like on an individual level, I don't think it works on a mass market level. And I think you put it out perfectly. Like on a mass market level, how do you determine like housing value? I think on an individual level, I think it does kind of work. And if everyone was to do it, it might change. But obviously, I know not everyone's going to do that. But I do feel like, for the most part, most people, if you see it as, this house is only literally serving the purpose of someone being able to actually live in it. Once you're gone, the house will serve the same purpose over and over again for generations to come. And whether you own it or someone else owns it, doesn't really matter. Whereas like for business, for example, like you can actually see the difference. If someone else owns it, you can see the impact of like a CEO. That like there's a difference there. You can see how you can scale a business, or you can reduce a business based on the decisions that you're making, based on the clients or customers that you're serving. There's a lot more complexity there. There's a lot more value add to society as a whole. I feel like a house is like a basic need that it doesn't serve much of a purpose apart from making sure we stay alive, which is obviously an important purpose. That's why I'd say it's like a necessity rather than an actual, should we really be turning it into like an actual profitable market? Which I think this is where I agree with you that it's incentivizing people to buy tons of houses, put like 4 people in there for like £500 a month each in a room. You got what I mean? Like doing stuff like that. I'm not sure if that's what we're incentivizing by having a massive property market.
I agree with you on that. We've incentivized people to buy up houses, stick 4 or 5 people in them and charge them ridiculous money. That's ridiculous when it is like a necessity for life. But I think I do disagree with you on it's just temporary. The reason we have the houses is that it's your choice if you want to sell the house.
Yeah.
And when you die, it becomes your children's choice. But essentially, for the government who built the house, because most of the times it's the government or a property company that's built the houses, and the government gives them permission, and then they sell it to the individual. They need to do that so that there's enough houses for people to actually live in. And that's part of the reason why the UK's been a bit of a slump and the housing market's gone crazy, because the government and the property company aren't actually building enough houses to match the demand with limited supply. and high demand, prices go up.
Mm, mm.
And then there's also different rules and regulations around
Yeah,
having your own
yeah, yeah,
house.
yeah.
So if you want to build a conservatory, you want to switch up the garden, you don't like this bathroom, you want to install a brand new one, and that's like £10,000 from Harrods. You want to do any of that kind of stuff, legally you need to own your house, or because it's very hard to get planning permission or permission from your landlord if you don't own the house. We rented together,
Yeah, yeah.
and we were scared to even switch up certain things or even move things,
Yeah, yeah.
just because we were just like, oh, we don't want to get charged any extra for them to ask us any questions.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So to me,
Yeah.
like, buying should be an option. I do think there is value in buying. I just don't think there's value in buying for myself, and for a lot of people, because maybe for a lot of people, everything I just said there, they don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's true.
They actually generally might not care. They don't really care to switch up the house. They'll live in it how it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stuff like that. The reason I am against renting, not renting you as the renter, but I'm against multiple like landlords and the pursuit of becoming a landlord for people just buying a property. I just think it's just the go-to investment in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's indicative of UK culture where everyone is so risk adverse. They're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, let me stick my money in the one thing that I know is going to guarantee me some returns by hook or by crook.
Yeah, yeah.
If I wait long enough, I can just hack up the rent prices and make sure that I start, getting that nice solid income.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, I think that's what my issue with it is, and why I personally don't really want to become a landlord. To me, you look at places like America and Dubai and Tokyo. There is a bit more encouragement of, instead of becoming a landlord and everyone trying to be risk adverse,
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bit more risk is actually encouraged, and so they churn out more ideas because that's where the money goes. Not everyone's trying to buy some ridiculous property where they can rent it out to two or
Yeah,
three
yeah.
people
Yeah.
and charge
Yeah.
money. To me, I kind of see the property market as a bit of a sinkhole for UK innovation, because the pursuit of wealth, that's the pathway that people choose to pursue wealth rather than exploring other options, because we're taught to be very safe and sound here
Yeah,
from
yeah,
a
yeah.
very young age. And what's the safest and soundest option? Housing.
Yeah,
And
because
that's my issue with it.
Yeah, yeah, because it's a need, so it's always going to be a need in it. So people know that. That's it's interesting that you say that as well. That it's sort of like a sinkhole, because I wonder as well how much someone might have done an analysis on it, but I would love to read a report on it in terms of how much of this has actually contributed to the decrease in living standards in the UK as well. Because if you're incentivizing people, to buy up loads of houses and reduce the quality of living for each person, that, because at the end of the day, that's how you make money, right? Like, you're not gonna buy a 5-bedroom house and make all of those rooms amazing, stunning, perfect living standards. You're just not gonna do that. You're just not gonna do that. So how much of this is actually, actually incentivized, landlords, people that can buy these properties, to actually just decrease living standards for people that can't buy these properties or can't afford them, or actually just don't want to, like maybe they're taking our stance, they just don't really want to, and you're actually pushing living standards down. I wonder if there's like a study to say, actually, the more properties that people are actually buying up and renting out and all this sort of stuff, like how is that actually contributing to everyday people that can't afford these and can't compete in that market?
No, there definitely is studies of that.
Yeah.
And even if we just use our common sense, the amount of people having to actually house share
Yeah,
now,
house share. Yeah.
that automatically means your quality of life has gone down.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
because there's just more people in the house,
Yeah,
less space to do things,
yeah,
less fridge space per person.
yeah. You got to let people know that you're inviting someone, and you want to have a
Yeah,
birthday party or something. Like this. Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. I feel, and I think that's why I say it's necessary evil with it. I feel like you do need to buy your own house. I mean, two reasons: you probably don't want to be paying rent when you're retired. That's probably not a good use of your hard works life. Like basically going, you know, most of it going to a landlord or something. You probably just want to be paying bills and that's it. Like enjoy the rest of your money that you've actually accumulated over your life. And then also the second one being, I do see it as like it is, for me, it's a necessity, and I think people should have the right to access what quality of life they want to access and have the property there to do that. I agree with you that on a macro scale, that person then needs to actually have the option to be able to buy it, own it, make the modifications that they want, switch it up, wherever it is. On a micro scale, we do know that there are landlords, and even the place I'm in now, they allow you to be very flexible, like on a micro scale. That's not on a macro scale. We know most people don't have that, but on a micro scale, there are places out there they allow you to, as a renter, if you're long term. There's even contracts now. If you're a long term renter, they say we won't raise your rent by a certain percentage every year, or it will be in line with inflation. I think there are, on a micro scale, good quality living for people. If you can find like the right landlord, the right place, you know, and but it's too many. You need to find the right things basically to be in a good position, which I think is where we've brought the housing market to. Unfortunately, I don't think it should be like that. And I wanted to talk a
I
little
agree.
bit actually. Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about actually. Do you actually think it's foolish, do you actually think like our generation will actually be able to make money off property? Like honestly, like obviously not like back then.
Yeah.
Like 100% we won't be able to back then. But like I was thinking about it, right? And I was like, hold on, if there's like 10%, 5% mortgages in it, and it goes down to like even 0% sometimes. Like, you know how it goes, right? And you're trying to buy like a family home, as you said. Let's say we fast forward 10, 15 years, and we're both we're in that position now where we're gonna probably buy a house. Let's say you're buying a 4-bedroom house, 5-bedroom house, and I don't know, it's like it's a big investment.
Mm.
Like I'll just pull a figure, 600, 700K. So if you actually don't put a good amount down, like initially, that house is firstly becoming a burden because you're probably going to have to be paying, I don't know, 60, 70% of your salary towards that mortgage, let's say, because obviously those monthly payments can be quite high. Then you got interest on top of that. Then obviously you've got property taxes, maintenance, all these other things. So let's say you do end up selling it 20 years time for like double, let's say. But like, I think people don't realize how much interest have you actually paid on that? How much tax are you actually paid on that? How much maintenance have you paid on that? When you actually factor in all of the other stuff, how much money have you actually made on that investment? Because people still think it's a good investment, but I'm actually starting to think, if I'm buying a 1-bedroom house for like 250K, let's say, because this is what's happening, right? You're buying a 1-bedroom apartment for 250K. In 25 years, am I really going to be able to sell that 1-bedroom house for? I know, obviously, you've got to factor in inflation and all that sort of stuff as well. But I'm actually really going to be able to sell that 1-bedroom apartment for double, even triple.
No, not for double or triple.
Uh,
I still think
yeah.
you'll get like a good chunk. I still think
Mm,
you'll make a profit, and I think over 25 years you might make like a 5 to 10%, maybe even a 15% profit from
mm,
your original deal.
yeah.
Even with the interest cutting some of that away, the real estate agent fees cutting some of that away, some of their
Yeah.
tax cutting that away. I think you'll still make something, but again, opportunity cost.
Yeah. For me, I just don't. for me, I don't know. Maybe because obviously, like, you know, the previous generation would have never seen they would have never thought that their properties would have been sold for this amount, right? I guess. So maybe I just
Yeah,
can't see it. But for me, it's like we're in a position now where, as you said, it's like 10 times someone's income. If income doesn't rise that much, and we're not seeing signs that it's going to rise significantly. Like, we're already at a point where it's 10 times. So am I really in 25 years? Am I really going to be selling it for, I don't know, 13 or maybe 14 times someone's income? Maybe, maybe,
yeah,
maybe.
because
But like,
those prices and then before, where it's
yeah,
4 or 5 times a person's income, that was so that one person could buy a house. But essentially, 30 years ago, the type
mm,
of jobs we have right now, we could be on the property ladder right now if we wanted to
yeah,
buy
yeah,
ourselves.
mm,
But now you need a partner.
yeah, you need, yeah. But
You
then
need
what
a partner,
does it
and that's
become where
where,
you need at some point? Does it? I'm just trying to gauge the point where it's like, at some point, do you need 3 people? At some point, do you need 4 people? Like,
well,
'cause we're already at the point where you need bank of mum and dad. Like, we're already at that point where you might
yeah,
need partners and also their parents to help. We're already at that point.
yeah.
And I'm just thinking, at what point does it get to a point where you actually, it's like, it's kind of unfeasible, you know? I think it will get to a point. I can just see it. But maybe, yeah.
Right now, I know that what people are doing
Mm,
to be able to get into the rent market and make profit from it, and this is why I don't like dive into the business aspects of renting
yeah.
from the landlord side. People are making consortiums of groups of their friends, 3 to 5 or 6 people,
That's what I
buying a
mean.
property, redeveloping it, and renting it out, and just sharing the spoils.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just like I, I know I'm gonna like the listeners listening to this or watching this might think I'm talking nonsense. To me, it's just a waste of talent. It's a
No, no.
waste of talent,
I actually see that.
waste of
I actually see what you're
time,
saying. I see
waste
what you're
of
saying.
resources, waste of
Yeah.
innovation.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Yeah.
So rather than now, instead of one person
Mm,
doing up their property thing, making a bit of money, and
yeah.
that's one person draining the innovation from the country.
Mm,
Now 6 people are on the same thing, all because property is the way to go.
yeah.
And especially with the introduction of Airbnb,
Mm,
everyone can make a valid claim. Oh, I'm a property manager. I look after our Airbnbs
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that kind of stuff. We're in partnership, da, da, da.
Mm,
And it's all the same thing.
yeah.
No one's trying to make the next Airbnb. Nah, people are just trying to use Airbnb
Yeah.
to collect a couple thousand or two every 2-3 months, and then they're a businessman.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I see. I see that. I see that, and I
Uh,
actually agree with you on it.
Imagine if I said to you, "Oh, Tavian, there's like 3 or 4 of us. We're gonna buy this 500K property in Kensington.
Yeah.
Do you have a 10K investment?" You look at me and be like, "Huh? I got better stuff to do with my time."
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly.
And I'd be like, "Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
10K investment, and you're gonna get 2% return on your investment every year."
Yeah. 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 I mean, there's a bit of desperacy as well in it, like what you're saying. In all of this, isn't it? It's like they don't see any other way. So then the property is like, okay, I need something. I feel like there's a bit of desperacy as well when it comes to property stuff. And yeah.
I, Sorry to cut you. I think it's a lack of imagination because
Yeah.
I know people from when we were at uni. I know people who are planning to do exactly what I just said,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they weren't even pursuing what we classically call the high earning careers.
Yeah.
They were pursuing decently well off and still be taken care of
Mm,
careers, but for them, the way to then assume that bit more wealth and get some of the better things in life is they're gonna save X amount. They already planned out save X amount,
yeah.
buy the
Yeah.
first property at 25, saves a bit more, leverage the first property, buy the second property at
Mm, mm,
28, buy the next one at 30, the next one at 32, 33, and they're gonna want 2 or 3 properties before they turn 35. You couldn't think of anything
yeah.
else.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. I think it's interesting actually because we're getting into a little bit around sort of values, like your own personal values and investments as well.
Yeah.
We're getting into that, which I think is like maybe even a separate conversation, because like yeah, for me, 100%, I was speaking to my wife as well. Like, I think the whole buy to let thing, or the be buy rent. Well, there's all these acronyms and things that people are doing. It's not, for me, it's not exciting. I think that's the first thing. And I think for me, it's like, obviously I have that personal view as well, where it's, I think it should be a right. So if even if I was going to do something like that, I don't see why. Like, I don't think I wouldn't see that as a business, if you know what I mean, or as a genuine thing that I'm doing. So yeah, I think we are definitely getting into that, and I feel like if you spend years, developing a skill set, like you went to uni, studied economics, you studied all these things, you actually go into the industry, you actually spend time developing a skill set, mastering your craft. I feel like surely you find something better to do. That, for me anyway, that's how I see it. Like, if you spend a significant amount of time in an industry, you've actually developed expertise. It doesn't even have to be like a high performing industry. But it's one of those things where I just feel like you've developed a unique skill set, a unique network. There must be a better challenge you could solve.
But that's the thing that most people do as a side hustle. How many better side hustles are there? So when there's 5 people going into making a consortium and buying a couple of houses, most of them keep their day jobs, but it's like a side business. So maybe we need to find better side businesses, or just a better way to invest your spare cash and make returns on investment. Why can't that spare cash go towards angel investing, seed investing, the stock market, other things? And one caveat I'll make to everything I've said is that I wouldn't mind if people were coming together and making these consortiums to actually build brand new houses and sell them.
Oh
In
yeah,
fact,
yeah.
I might get involved in that too. If you actually want to build houses, be part of the solution, help to lower the cost of house prices.
Yeah,
But when you're
I'm
already
all over that.
buying the existing supply and you just making it worse, adding to the issues and making the demand for the market go up. I don't know. That's not for me.
It's part of the problem, isn't it? Really and truly.
Yeah, you're just attaching yourself like a leech to the problem.
Yeah, part of the problem. But yeah, no, I think we've discussed a lot. To be fair, I think there's a lot around Gen Z. What success looks for us in that property market specifically. For me personally, I guess just to summarize, I actually don't think there is a race anymore to get on the ladder or whatever it is. I think that was old. That was old time stuff. It was good stuff back then. I think we've been left with the bad leftovers, unfortunately, of all of that. Prices are stupid high now. You've got landlords who are 2 generations above us, who have literally got like 12, 15, 20 properties all renting out. Even if you do the whole buy to let thing, you have to remember that there's people in the previous generations that have just paid way more down on their properties. That's why they can charge lower rents. That's why they can, that's why they can do what they do. They've got way more leverage. Like that was just the game back then. So for me, I feel like it's probably not maybe for our generation, and I think it's important, as you're saying, that we have to see it as that, and we have to find a way to make people see it like that, where it's not probably the best use of talent, time, resources. A lot of challenges coming ahead in our generation, I feel like that need to be solved, other than like the supply of housing. It's a problem, but be part of the solution rather than on the demand side, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. One thing before we round off, what do you think the effect of people not being able to buy their houses and get on the property, owning their property, right?
Mm.
What do you think? What effect does that have on people living with their parents longer?
Yeah,
And how
yeah,
does that affect society longer?
yeah.
Do people, is that part of their quality of life going down? Do
I
people become
think
a bit more infant-like, infantile? I think the word is.
that's a good question. Look, that could be another thing. I think it could. So I think after a certain point, it probably does reduce quality of life. I mean, at some point, you probably don't want to be, living with your parents, so forth. So like, it probably does impact quality of life, like flexibility and so forth. I guess it depends. I guess on cultures as well. Some cultures, actually, that's what they do. For some cultures, that's fine. Um, I think when I think macro, I think it leads to what's happening kind of now, and I think it's going to become even more stringent. Like, I think it's going to lead to disincentivizing landlords and so forth as well to stop buying so many properties and so forth, because that's another part of the problem, as well. So I think it will actually start to lead to disincentivizing people to even go into it as an investment, so other people can it will free up some of the market as well. I think long term it reduces quality of life, but then maybe part of the solutions in that as well, where maybe people actually just say, you know what, I'm just not going to buy a house then. That's scrapping it. I'll just live with my parents. And then that is reducing the demand. That is reducing the demand. There's less people now saying, you know what, I actually want to, as your friends were saying, I want to buy my first house at 25. Leverage that 27. All that sort of stuff. Eventually, people might just start seeing it as, you know what, this is actually a waste of time. Like, it's actually a waste of time when it starts getting out of reach and out of hand. So
Interesting. I disagree that it will disincentivize landlords. I think the market's way too lucrative for them. But I think one of the issues is that we'll have a kind of like a mismanagement of talent now. Because if you live within, like, let's say, closest to the countryside than one of the big cities, and now you want a job in the city, how do you move?
yeah,
Like that leap is now a lot bigger because your parents bought a house in the country. Let's say Essex, for example. Your parents bought a house in Essex,
yeah.
but now you have a job in West London or in Reading. All right, can you even take that job? Because you might want the job. It's a great job, great company. Are they actually paying enough for you to be able to move out and live comfortably?
Yeah.
Are you going to be in a 5-person house share? Because I can say this personally, where I have a job in London. If I had to move, like, if I had to rent in London and my parents didn't have a house here, I probably wouldn't take my job. I don't do house shares. I hate it, especially with
Yeah.
strangers. And I think I know one of my colleagues who is renting by himself.
Yeah.
His rent is about 70% of our income, and that's rent alone.
You see what I mean? You see, that is a problem. That is a big problem.
And I think that's minimum. It might be even higher, actually. Maybe like 75%.
Yeah, that's a big problem. That's a big problem. For me, personally, you should not need to pay that much for basic necessity. For me.
Yeah.
Like,
And we
that's
make
crazy.
a decent amount.
Yeah.
Should he be in that situation, that predicament? People will say, "Oh, it's just the market forces." I don't know. To
No.
me, the amount of like hard work that we've done to get where we are, and the type of job we have,
Yeah.
we should be able to have a decent quality
Exactly.
of life, not 75% going to rent. That's option A. Option B, 5-man house share. Option C, don't take the job.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky that I'm from London
Yeah.
anyway.
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'd be in a pickle.
Yeah. 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 And at some point, I think people need to realize there's a bit of speculation in that in the housing market. Probably a lot. Actually, I said a bit. Like, is this truly market forces? When when we just look at how income's grown in comparison to house prices, is this truly market forces? You know, because companies are paying their employees what they can, what they see as a reasonable price. You know, so what's going on with the housing market then? Why has it gone to such an extent? Like, is it actually truly market forces? Because companies are still making profits. They're still employing us, you know? So, like, for me, there's speculation there. That gap, I think it's widening. There's some sort of speculation. People are hoping the bubble will pop. But I think with housing, it's hard to say bubbles are going to pop or it's going to, you know, like housing crisis, all this stuff, because it is a basic necessity. So you don't really need to market it. You know, it's not like a speculative asset to invest in where you need to market it, you know, and all this other stuff. It's like people need it. So there's always going to be demand for it. Doesn't matter what time. So
sorry to cover the culture aspect one more time. I actually think it is messing up with the culture because the housing, like housing is a basic necessity, right? So naturally will affect other things. But think of how not being able to have your own place has affected the dating market.
Yeah.
Someone having their property is like, oh, he's straight away. Someone assumes he's doing better and doing well off because someone has a property. Now that might be true, but you don't know what person this other person is pursuing to why they don't have a property. They might be doing research for university that's going to help mankind rather than focusing on a property. And they might still be doing very well. Just I don't have time to buy a house. I don't care. I have to go to a different university in China or Japan next year to finish off the research. And then for dating, again, how hard is it to say I'm going to bring a girl back to her parents' house? Who wants to do that?
Yeah. Nah, it's sticky. Yeah, sticky. Yeah, honestly.
And so partially, like, that might even be a link to why the birth rate is lower, people are getting married later, and why the whole like structure of society is changing, because
it is.
People just don't have their own houses and have the privacy to like do what they want with their loved ones.
Yeah, and I think Airbnb are profiting from that amazingly. I think initially Airbnb was literally just, let's just try and undercut hotels, just standard hotels, right? Let's do that. Let's put the power in people's hands that own their property, you know, and actually allow them to almost operate like a hotel. I mean, they probably didn't anticipate that they would actually have a large market size from people that just want, you know, privacy. They probably thought it would be like people that maybe are going on holiday or like trying to book out, you know, like an event or something. Nah. There's a huge market.
Airbnb story is quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because they started off as, if you have a spare room and you want to make some money for the weekend, you can rent it out.
Yeah, that's true.
That's literally how they started off. I think one of the first bookings was someone sleeping in someone's sofa bed.
Yeah.
Right, in San Francisco. They themselves didn't expect to turn into literally a chunk of someone's economy.
Yeah.
To the point where there are whole cities that have to actually make laws to regulate not Airbnb but people using Airbnb. Like I think in Barcelona, legally you can only rent Airbnb for a certain number of days of the year. Because then the actual people who lived in Barcelona were being forced out because people just wanted to have their houses and apartments for Airbnbs because it was just made them so much more money.
Wow. Yeah. Honestly, it's the property market. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens to it. Obviously, I think there is a huge opportunity in actually being part of the solution to this, in terms of maybe supporting investing and so forth into actually building the supply needed. And as you said, it's going to help the misplacement of talent, which I think is actually a big thing that goes unmissed in all of this. If you're like a genius in Wolverhampton, we're always picking on these places like Hull, Wolves. So I'm sorry to any viewers, but like, if you are like a genius out there, you know, and your parents have been able to accumulate, buy a house there, yeah, you're right. Like that misplacement of talent, you know, is a biggie. Yeah, it's really a challenge. I think we should wrap it up there because we're getting close to the hour mark. Yeah, this was a really good one. Let us know in the comments. Actually, are you planning to buy a house? You know, do you actually see it as, you know, feasible for yourself? If you're Gen Z as well, definitely let us know. You know, like how do you
If
see this
you're Gen
planning out?
Alpha, let us know what you think.
Yeah,
Do you even think of buying a house, or do you just want a work that offers a purpose? Because I have a friend like that
yeah.
who a house, they don't even care about a house. Once they have meaningful work in their job, that's all they care about.
Yeah, that's what they care about. Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, we'll see you in the next one and enjoy.